Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, I'm going to do my predictions for the entire 2022-2023 NFL playoffs. We're going to start through the wild card round and we're going to go all the way. I'm going to give you my prediction for the Super Bowl winner. This is going to be a really fun video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And remember, we're going to be streaming a whole bunch of the playoff games coming up. So that's going to be really exciting. But coming up right now, guys, is going to be my predictions for the 2022 playoffs. Alrighty guys, so here you have it. We are going to go through each of the games, of course starting with the wild card. I'm going to give you my predictions and I'll give you some reasons why I think the results will go the way that they will. So let's not waste any time and let's jump right in. So we're going to kick it off in the AFC. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the LA Chargers. And to me, this actually might be one of the closest games of this first wild card weekend. I'm going to go though with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think that the Jaguars have been playing really good football lately. They're going to be at home. With the Chargers, I just don't trust them yet in the big game. Even though they didn't really have anything to play for in week 18 against the Broncos, you still would have liked to have seen them get the win, go into the playoffs with some momentum. Now they have to travel across the country all the way to Jacksonville, and it's going to be on Saturday too, so on a short week. So I'm going to give this one here to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they move on. Trevor Lawrence takes it to the divisional round. Now in the next game here, when we look at the AFC wild card, it's the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Now the status of Lamar Jackson still somewhat up in the air, but to me, I think gotta go with Cincinnati in this one. I think that the Bengals are just really good. They've won 8 games in a row. Could have been 9 depending on what may have happened in the Buffalo game, of course, but we know what happened there. But I think, look, the defense for the Bengals has been playing a lot better in recent weeks, and we know the offense can put up a ton of points in a hurry. And look, these two teams just played each other, and Cincinnati won fairly comfortably. Look, if Lamar Jackson's back, that definitely changes things quite significantly, but I still think that Cincinnati is just a little bit too good for the Baltimore Ravens this time around. Now in the final wild card game in the AFC, we're going to have the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. We don't know if Tua is going to play. The Dolphins just haven't been playing good football lately. They did just scrape a win against the reeling New York Jets with Joe Flacco at quarterback. So overall, I'm not feeling great about the Miami Dolphins right now, so I think you have to go with Buffalo. And to me, Buffalo are, of course, one of the best teams in the NFL. Also, Buffalo are a team that are just playing, of course, with a ton of emotion, and they're just a great football team. You look at their offense, you look at their defense, they are just stacked with talent, top to bottom. Buffalo is a really good team. Now, let's move on to the NFC side of things, and we're going to kick it off here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, both teams actually had losses in week 18. It's really hard to count out Tom Brady in any game, especially a big game like a playoff game. With that being said, though, I got to take the Dallas Cowboys in this one. I think the Cowboys, their defense has been playing, pretty good football. I think the offense will definitely get it together. Ultimately, when you look at the game week 18 against the Commanders, and you could argue this for Tampa Bay too, but they didn't really have a ton to play for, knowing that the Giants were basically resting a lot of their players against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was very unlikely they would get move up a seeding. But overall here, I just think the Dallas Cowboys, too much talent. Their defense is playing good. Dan Quinn, their defensive coordinator, getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Plus the offense, a lot of weapons, good running game. They can do it all, and they're getting healthy on the offensive line. So got to go with the Cowboys there. Now looking at the wild card round here, the next game, we have the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. And here, I'm actually going to go with a little bit of an upset. I'm going to go with the New York Giants in this one, believe it or not. I think that the Giants are just, one of those teams where they're going to maybe have a big play here, big play there. Minnesota, very, very inconsistent. They've lost some games very badly recently. They did take care of business in Week 18 against an awful Chicago Bears team, but I just think with the New York Giants, maybe it's just one of those years where they, they're really they're playing with house money. I think before the season started, if you asked Giants fans, hey, do you think you'll be in the playoffs? I think most of them probably would have said no. And I think that Brian Daboll, really, really good coach. I do like him a little bit more than Kevin O'Connell. And I just think the Giants here could just maybe pull an upset. Maybe they have like a kick return, big play on defense. They're able to run the ball really well with Saquon. I'm going to go with a bit of an upset here, but I'm going to go with the New York Giants. Then looking at the 49ers and the Seahawks, and I think got to go with the 49ers here on this one. The Niners offense with Brock Purdy's been putting up over 30 points a game. The defense, although it has struggled a little bit in recent weeks, still playing really, really good. It is the number one defense in the NFL. The Niners have beat the Seahawks twice this year. The first time in week 2 very comfortably despite the Trey Lance injury. Later in the season, it was a little bit closer, of course, but that was at Seattle on a short week. It was a Thursday night game, but I think the Niners here take care of business moving into the next round of the playoffs. So moving into the divisional round now, and I think this is one of the elite matchups, and we're going to basically get a repeat of that game that was going to be week 17, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. So this is going to be just an electric game. Of course, there's going to be so much emotion. This game would be in Buffalo, of course, and I just think that this year Buffalo are kind of like potentially like the team of destiny here. The Buffalo Bills, they have a lot to play for emotionally, but also, again, just really, really talented. Now, I don't think it's going to be easy by any means. Cincinnati are a very, very talented team. I just think that this is the year for Buffalo where Josh Allen's been making plays when he needs to. The defense is playing good. The defense have gotten really healthy in recent weeks, and I just think there'll be a little bit too much for the Bengals, although this will be a close game, but I'm going to go with Buffalo right here. Now, when we look at the Jaguars and the Chiefs, look, it's one of those things where, similar to the Giants rationale earlier, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars would almost just kind of be happy to be here. These two teams did play earlier in the year. Kansas City won relatively comfortably. The game was close for a little while, but then Kansas City was able to pull away. Look, Kansas City, they have so many options on offense. They have arguably, the best quarterback in the game. The defense has been playing really well. Rookie George Karlaftis, the edge player to Purdue, been really stepping up in recent weeks. Chris Jones, to me, an all-pro player, the best player defensive tackle in the NFL this season. And they have the linebackers have been stepping up, and so has the secondary. So I think Kansas City does take this win. I wouldn't say like super easy, but I think it would probably be maybe by like 10 points or so. Kansas City and Buffalo will move in to face each other in the AFC Championship game. Now looking at the divisional round in the NFC, we're going to have the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, I think the Giants and the Jaguars, they have a lot of things in common where, you know, maybe outperforming their expectations of heading into the year. I think the Giants will be kind of happy to be here. The Eagles, though, they just have so much talent, and it's going to be really hard. You know, Jalen Hurts has that extra week to, he played in week 18, of course, against these Giants, but I think he'll have an extra week now, of course, to recover the shoulder, let that heal a little bit more, come up with the game plan for the Giants, and I think that they have so much talent offensively, defensively. This, to me, is going to be the Eagles beating the Giants. And the final game in the divisional round in the NFC, Dallas Cowboys 49ers. This is going to be a repeat of last year's wild card game where the 49ers were able to beat the Cowboys. I think this will be a really fun game. Whenever these two teams match up, of course, there is a ton of history between these two franchises over the last 40 plus years. But in this one here, I'm going to go with the 49ers. Look, the Cowboys, I think, will be a really good matchup for the 49ers. I think this will be a really close game. But I just think when you look at the Niners, they're playing really really good football. Again, the offense has been just absolutely rolling. Deebo Samuel's back, Elijah Mitchell's back, Kittle's been catching a ton of touchdowns. That doesn't even, we haven't even talked about McCaffrey, Ayuk, all these other guys who can make plays, and the defense as well. The defense for the 49ers, yes, they struggled against Vegas, but outside of that, this defense has been electric. The Niners have been on a roll. The Cowboys, losing to the Commanders, I do think that they would, beat the Buccaneers, but I think the Buccaneers are just not a great football team this year. I just think the Cowboys won't have enough firepower to keep up with the 49ers, especially trying to score points on that Niner defense. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. And ultimately, and I'm not sure what the odds of this happening are, the number 1 and 2 seeds from both conferences making the championship games, but this is how it's kind of worked out here. Now, looking at the AFC championship game, this game, if it's the Buffalo Bills against the Chiefs, would actually be played on a neutral ground. It would not be played in Kansas City, despite them being the number one seed, simply because of what happened in Week 17 with the game getting canceled between Buffalo and Cincinnati. This game, I think, could be an all-timer. We saw what happened last year in the playoffs between these two teams. Of course, all the crazy scores and touchdowns at the very end of the game. One of the great playoff games that we've seen. In this one, though, I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills. I think that the Bills, again, playing with so much more emotion. They're just going to be really, of course, they want to do it for Damar Hamlin, but also this team, I think, is just a little bit more well-rounded than the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, when you look at the stats, the Chiefs are the number 1 offense, but Buffalo is right there. Buffalo, and we know that they can put up points in a hurry. But to me, overall, Buffalo's defense has been a lot more consistent throughout the year, and I think that their defense is just more talented, and they'll be able to score on Kansas City. And remember, Buffalo and Kansas City did play earlier this year in Kansas City, and Buffalo did win that game. This game would be played on a neutral field, but I'm going to go with Buffalo getting the win over Kansas City and going to Super Bowl 57. Now, looking at the NFC side of things, we have the 49ers and the Eagles. Now, this would also, of course, be a great matchup. I think that there's so much talent on both of these teams, and to me, these two teams are the clear top 2 teams in the NFC. I think Dallas are pretty close to there. I think that the Vikings have had their moments, but overall, I think that this is the natural way that it should have gone in the NFC. 49ers, Eagles. To me, call me a homer. I'm going to go 49ers in this one. Simply because I think that the Niners have been playing with so much consistency. The Niners have been turning the ball over at a crazy rate. The Niners are actually the number 1 team when it comes to turnover differential in the NFL. The Niners are the number 1 team when it comes to point differential. We've won 10 games. Defense is ranked number 1. If the weather's not great, I do like the 49ers rushing attack a little bit more, although we know that a guy like Jalen Hurts, mobile quarterbacks, can be a struggle for the 49ers. But I think that when it comes to this matchup here, the Niners will just have a little bit too much in terms of just being able to play in whatever conditions. The Niners can go on the road, they can play at home, they play really well. And I think that that's going to lead us to the Super Bowl, and that's going to lead us to the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. Who do I have winning this one? Well, this will be just a great matchup, and one that these two teams did see each other, but it was back in 2020, and that was the year that the Niners were absolutely decimated with injuries. The quarterback was out, Bosa was out, a whole bunch of players were out, so really hard to look at that matchup as anything indicative as what would happen here. When it comes to the Super Bowl, though, it pains me to say it, but I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills as the Super Bowl winner. It's one of those things where, look, I want the 49ers to win, don't get me wrong. I just think that the Buffalo Bills, they have that ability on offense where they can score lightning quick. And we've seen it in recent weeks where the 49ers defense has given up some big plays. We saw it very early against Arizona. We saw a number of big plays against the Vegas Raiders. And I do think that Buffalo will be able to move the ball on this 49ers defense. And I just think that with Josh Allen and his mobility, that's going to be basically the Achilles heel for the 49ers defense. Now, look, I think this will be a fantastic fantastic matchup. I think it would be really, really close. I would just absolutely love for this to be the matchup. I don't want to face Kansas City again. I think this would be a great Super Bowl, and either team at this point who would win, it would be a great story. If the 49ers win, of course, a rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, leading a team to a Super Bowl for the first time ever, that would be incredible. Of course, with the Buffalo Bills, there's the huge Damar Hamlin story, and but either way, I do think in this situation, Buffalo would just edge out the 49ers. Alrighty guys, so there you have it. Let me know what you think of my predictions. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I think it could lead to some really good and interesting conversations. If you did enjoy this content, do feel free to hit the like button on it. Feel free to share it on social media. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to be streaming a whole bunch of the playoff games, so I hope you guys will check that out too. We have a ton of fun doing that, but I'm gonna leave it there, and you know I'm gonna say two things before I head out. The butt counts. I'm gonna catch you guys on the flip side.